Milu was a cat. He was a very still cat. One sunny morning, a long, long time ago, Milu found a lovely garden. The garden had soft green grass and pretty flowers. It was a perfect place for a little cat business. So Milu pooped in the garden. He felt very comfortable there. He decided to stay. He stayed right in that same spot. He stayed for 1 year, then 2 years, then 10 years. He stayed for a very, very long time. In fact, he stayed in that garden for 24 whole years. His best friend was a boy named Jesse. Jesse lived in the house with the garden. Every single day, Jesse would come out to see Milu. He would bring him a bowl of yummy food and a saucer of fresh milk. Jesse would sit on the grass and talk to Milu. He told him stories about school and about his toys. Milu would just sit there, not moving a whisker, but he listened to every word. Jesse loved Milu very much, and Milu, in his very still cat way, loved Jesse right back. The years went by, but Milu did not change. The flowers in the garden bloomed and faded, the little trees grew tall and strong. Other cats would run and chase mice, but not Milu. He just sat. He watched the birds fly high in the sky. He watched the puffy white clouds drift by. He felt the warm sun on his fur in the summer and the cool breeze in the autumn. He was the most famous still cat in the whole neighborhood. Nobody had ever seen a cat sit so still for so long. One morning the sun was extra bright. A tiny bee buzzed near Milu's nose. A little bird chirped a happy song on a branch above him. Everything felt just the same as always. Milu had no idea that today was going to be different. It was going to be very, very different indeed. He had no idea that his quiet life in the garden, the only life he had known for 24 years, was about to change in the biggest, fastest, and most surprising way a cat could ever imagine. Suddenly, a strange feeling started in Milu's paws. It was a tingle like when your foot falls asleep, but this tingle was everywhere. It fizzed and it whizzed all through his fur. Milu's eyes grew very wide. What was this funny feeling? He tried to wiggle his tail, but instead of a wiggle, it gave a mighty twitch. It was a twitch so powerful that it lifted him right off the ground. Just for a second, he floated above the soft green grass where he had sat for so long. Before Milu could even think meow, he started to move. He did not walk or run. He zoomed. He shot forward like a furry rocket. He whizzed past the garden fence. He zipped over the neighbor's roof. He was a blur of fur flying through the air. The houses looked like tiny boxes below him. The trees looked like little green lollipops. Meow, he cried, but the sound was lost in the wind rushing past his ears. He was moving faster than a bird, faster than a plane. Higher and higher he went. The world below became a big blue and green ball. Milu had never seen anything like it. He saw the puffy white clouds he used to watch from the garden, but now he was flying right through them. They were cold and wet, like a big misty bath. He closed his eyes tight. He was a cat who liked to sit still. He did not like to fly. He certainly did not like to fly into space. He was very scared and very, very confused. Soon everything was dark and quiet. Milu opened his eyes and saw a black sky filled with tiny, sparkly lights. They were stars. He was floating in the middle of them. He was a little cat all alone in the big, dark, empty space. He had left his garden. He had left his home. He had left everything he knew behind. He didn't understand how he got there, and he had no idea where he was going. He was just a small, furry speck tumbling through the endless night. With a gentle bump, Milu landed. He did not land on soft, green grass. He landed on red, dusty ground. He looked around. Everything was red. The ground was red. The rocks were red. The sky was a dusty, pinkish red. There were no trees, no flowers, and no birds. There was no water in a bowl or milk in a saucer. This was not his garden. This was not his home. This was a strange and empty place. Where in the universe was he? He was on the planet Mars. Milu took a little step. His paw sank into the fine red dust. Poof! A little cloud of red dust rose up. He sneezed a tiny cat sneeze. He felt very lonely. The silence was the biggest he had ever heard. There was no buzzing bee, no chirping bird, and no sound of Jesse calling his name. He was all alone on a big, red, quiet ball. He thought about his favorite spot under the rose bush. He thought about the warm sun on his back. He missed his garden so much his whiskers drooped. Most of all, Milu missed Jesse. He remembered Jesse's gentle hands stroking his fur. He remembered Jesse's soft voice telling him stories. Jesse was his best friend in the whole wide world. Who would bring him his food now? Who would tell him he was a good cat? A big, sad feeling grew in Milu's chest. He let out a small, lonely meow. The sound seemed so tiny in the vast, red emptiness. He wished he could just close his eyes and wake up back in his garden. He sat down on the red dust, just like he used to sit on the green grass, but it did not feel the same. It was cold and strange. He looked up at the red sky and saw a tiny blue dot, far, far away. That was Earth. That was where Jesse was. It looked so far away. How would he ever get back? Milu felt a tear roll down his furry cheek. He was a lost cat on a red planet, and all he wanted was to be home with his friend. Back on Earth, Jesse came out into the garden. "Milu," he called, holding a bowl of food. "Time for your breakfast." He walked to the special spot where Milu always sat, but the spot was empty. There was no Milu. There was just a small cat-shaped patch on the grass. Jesse looked behind the rose bush. He looked under the big green leaves of the rhubarb plants. He called his name again, louder this time. "Milu, where are you, boy?" But there was no answer. Jesse searched everywhere. He checked the little garden shed. He peeked over the fence into the neighbor's yard. He even looked up in the branches of the big oak tree, even though Milu never ever climbed. He walked all around the house, calling and calling until his voice was hoarse. A worried feeling started to grow in Jesse's tummy. Milu was always there. For 24 years, Milu had always been right there in that spot. Where could he have gone? The sun began to set, painting the sky in orange and pink. Still, there was no sign of Milu. Jesse sat on the front steps, his head in his hands. He thought maybe another family had taken Milu, or maybe a dog had chased him away. He thought of all the sad things that could happen to a little cat. He couldn't imagine his garden without Milu sitting in it. The thought of never seeing his still furry friend twinkle in the sky. Jesse finally went inside. He was too tired and too sad to eat his dinner. He curled up on the big, comfy couch in the living room. He hugged a pillow tight and pretended it was Milu. He closed his eyes and a single tear rolled down his cheek and onto the pillow. "I miss you, Milu," he whispered into the quiet room, before finally drifting off into a sad, dreamless sleep, not knowing his best friend was looking at the same stars from a world away.